Good morning, everyone. Well, today our keynote speaker is a Moroccan-American psychology graduate from Faith University in Istanbul and a master's student in child and youth care studies at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow, Scotland. She has organized several conferences as TEDx Mora in Istanbul, the inauguration conference, First Interfaith Center in Morocco, and is currently working on a COP22, which will be held in Marrakesh this year. She has also been an ambassador and head delegate at UN in Dubai. She is a youth care worker and entrepreneur who has managed youth programs at an orphanage in Istanbul and a play therapy program for Syrian refugees. In her free time, she works on her website, Inspire Cope. Please help me welcome Ms. Jihad Benimoussa.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys have been enjoying your program. Can you give me a cheer to see how excited you are? Woo! Okay, give me a bigger one and let's snap this. Okay? Awesome, awesome. So today I'd like to talk to you about possibility. And I'd like to transport us to a realm where we imagine what if and what could be. I want us to imagine the great wondrous gems of knowledge that we can uncover in the minds of cooperation. If we synergize our vision and our effort, and that could move us from the dark valleys of estrangement to the sunlit hills of unification. What if we re-explored our ancient knowledge through the enlarged lens of amity and rediscovered the shared wisdom of humanity? What if we worked together to find solutions to local problems and transformed and applied those solutions to worldwide issues? There are many inspiring projects around the world today by youth just like you that represent the power of working together and applying that knowledge and the shared information. And that can affect us in our lives. What if we shared the best practices that each of us discovers here and there? The reason working together is so essential and so transformative is because we are all facing similar issues and problems, but each one of you guys has a different way of looking at it. And that, the remix of those views and the remix of those ideas is what creativity is. And each way that you guys look at things, and you have a different way of addressing each problem. You have a different perspective. And when you bring that to the table, the creative solution can transcend the differences, can transcend different disciplines, can transcend opposing beliefs, and can include children's imagination. Because real solutions are always found within that creative tension. Imagine if we humans looked around us and invested more of our time talking to each other rather than at each other. What if we invested the time to know each other? Energy well spent, because it can only increase sorry. It can only increase our empathy and our understanding for each other. And that way we can look at each other's trials and tribulations, and we can understand each other. And because our modern world is a small one that has been brought even closer through the 90 years of globalization. What if we knew each other like we know ourselves? Would we rage at each other like a mighty storm? Or would we be the serene water that lifts each other closer to the light? Would we work together to provide aid to those seared in the flames of injustice and those forced to flee? There are 32,000 people forced to flee every day, and 86% of them come to developing countries where they are welcomed with generosity and humanity, although these developing countries can only afford to provide them with minimal shelter and basic care. If we work together to save a lost generation by providing them with the education and training to rebuild nations and stop wars, imagine what our world would look like today. What if we learned once again how to complete each other? Our lives are inextricably bound to one another. So what if in that need for one another, we learned to teach each other how to stand on the solid rock of knowledge and evade the quicksands of ignorance? We need to look at the ways in which countries with very little resources are addressing big problems and transforming their social work. The Social Progress Index shows us that countries like Costa Rica and Cuba are transforming their education system and the way they provide community-based medical care. Knowledge of how to use those resources, the transformative best practices, and attention to education and opportunity can change our world. What if we realized once again that this little blue dot in this cosmos is our common home and our giving shelter? What if we grasped that Mother Earth can teach us how to live on her once again? But we must relearn to trust her, to understand her, and to regain her confidence once again. There are youth around the world today that are realizing this and working on projects that we could have never imagined. Growing nutritious food using computers, some seeds that have never been grown in thousands of years, or helping the oceans clean themselves from all the plastic that we have piled in the ocean floors. Climate and ecological problems affect people and cause them to move towards cities, which can increase disease pandemics, and it affects our global economy. Educating you guys today about these issues can have a real transformative way of solving them, because if you think about the people who put a man on the moon, most of the technicians in that room were around the age of 26. And as Al Gore put it, those people, when they first got introduced to the idea of being able to put a man on the moon, and they got exposed to that knowledge, they were only 18. All the puzzle pieces of education, cooperation, empathy, and many more work together like the pieces of a machine to transform Earth into what we think it should be. What if we set our sight on the dream of redirecting the funds of weaponry of war to beacons of peace and harmony? What if we used our mighty strength to mobilize forces of cooperation, collaboration, and communion? What if we rolled up our sleeves and worked together in the trenches of despair to combat the wave of injustice that is conducting humanity on a very, very dangerous track? What if we joined forces to suck away the venom of fear that is permitting the proliferation of a perilous future? Preventing those who choose to use fear from bending nations to their will is a collective effort, and bringing together global forces to stand in their way and also take preventive measures by addressing the gaps in society from whence they emerge. The gaps of governance, social issues, poverty, population shifts, education, security, and well-being. They need the pooling of our collective knowledge and experience in order to solve and prevent the proliferation of violent extremism. What if we used our communicative energy to build for our children a model of living that humanity can take pride in? What if we redirected our powers by investing in our world and by crafting more dynamic, constructive, and beautiful education systems that will expand the breadth of the lives of the next generation and nurture their abilities to become more empathetic, to enhance their wisdom and their creativity? What if? This is a rich garden of dreams that I sustain, because I believe with heartfelt sincerity that humanity can and will change, and it has proven that again and again throughout history. We just have to work together. Because together we can ensure a future of growth, wellness, and opportunity for us and for generations to come. Humanity has the same ultimate goal, so it's a lot easier if we just work together. Thank you. Q&A? Yeah.
And now we'll have the Q&A. Does anybody have any question?
Hello, so I've just got a question. How did you have the idea to, do those works you did? Because I was amazed when I heard about the work you did in Dubai, the thing you did with the Syrian refugees. Can you please tell us more about that?
Well, I started volunteering at a young age, and when you start volunteering at that age, you start to build a connection with other people, and it's hard for you to keep a distance and stay living in your own bubble. So when you see a problem, it's a lot easier to think, how can I help? What can I do? What can I change? Rather than just be like, oh, that's so sad, so. When I was in Istanbul and the Syrian crisis started, I had the language. I know Arabic, and a lot of Turkish people don't speak Arabic. So it was sort of obvious that I had to help out. And also, I was studying psychology, so it just sort of made sense. But everybody can help in their own way. And I really like to emphasize the idea that volunteering is not going and just building a house or doing something that you feel uncomfortable doing. It's always contributing using your own skills. So for example, if you're a great photographer, you can help an organization by photographing their work in order for them to be able to spread it and to get funding. Or if you know how to use social media really well, you can help them spread their message and connect with more people. So it's always trying to identify your skills and what you're comfortable doing and see how can you use that to help others.
Hi, hello. I really liked your intervention about all the new ideas you brought, and I was wondering what are some of your future projects about? I really want to know what you think you're going to do in the future that's going to help all what you said to us today.
Thank you, that's a great question. It sort of gives me a chance to show off a little bit. So the projects that I'm currently working on is part of Inspire Corp. And I'm working to bring trainers in art therapy, play therapy, drama, counseling, in order to support students in schools, teachers, also people in, like children in the care system, because I feel there's a lack in the psychological side here in Morocco, so I'm hoping to do that. But I also want to really work on social entrepreneurship. And that's a cause that's really close to my heart because it just makes sense to me that an NGO cannot focus on its mission if it's constantly worrying about raising funds. And social entrepreneurship, you can bring in a profit through a business that it's in the same direction of your mission, For example, an orphanage can have small businesses in the community, such as mechanics, store owners, and things like that. And then the children from that home, once they reach the age of maturation, they can get training and they can work in those stores before they gain independence. So it's a way to be a lot more independent. And I'd love for youth to be able to embrace that idea and to start their own projects with that vision in mind.
Hi.
Hi.
The theme of the conference is Together for a Common Future, and you speak of a world that is unified as we develop and advance towards the future. And I was wondering, to you, what's the ideal future that you want us to strive for as a unified human race?
Okay, great question. The idea of a unified future, although it might seem like a pipe dream or like a utopian society, but from my experience living around the world, I see that kids in our generation, through social media and through the connection and the communication that people have never experienced before, we feel a lot closer to each other. And it's very normal for us to accept each other without, like, just for being another human being, and we feel like that person can be a friend even though we've never met them before in our lives. And it's something that we might take for granted, but I feel if you look around us, it's not something that people apply. And I really believe that our generation can make that change by accepting that our world is one and we are all one, and just work together and accept each other. So I don't see it as a very distant dream. I feel that the tools that we have today can definitely make it happen.
Hello.
Hi.
We are always speaking about like perfect world without war. So for you, you got a lot of experience. I was just want to ask you how we can like get this world.
Well, there are ways that we can transform conflict, because conflict is normal. Like we can disagree. We can always have our own ideas, our own beliefs, and they don't have to be the same. But the difference is that we don't vilify the other because their ideas are different. We accept the other. It's okay, we can disagree, but that doesn't mean I'm going to hate you. That doesn't mean I'm going to hurt you. So I feel that if we can learn the skills of things like how to resolve conflicts peacefully, how to communicate in a way that is healthier and more transformative, that we can definitely reach that conclusion. I'd just like to add that if anybody wants to contribute their own idea or their own thoughts, it doesn't have to be a question. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
It was great hearing your vision for the future. And my question is, to what extent do you see the voice of young people being able to be expressed in Morocco today?
Well, Moroccan youth today are starting to gradually speak up. And there's a culture of non-inclusion in Morocco of youth, because and around the world, where youth have ideas that are maybe a little less significant and they don't know what they're talking about and they still need to learn and experience things. But I believe that through the internet and social media, that dynamic has changed drastically. A lot of youth these days know a lot more than some adults do. And their ideas are significant, and even if somebody tries to sort of prevent them from speaking up about an issue that they really care about, they have the tools to do that. So with that easy access to speaking up and getting their voices heard, I think that Moroccan youth can definitely start to gradually gain confidence in their own ideas. Gradually, but for sure. Hi.
It's not really a question, it's more of a, I don't know, a comment.
Yeah.
It seems to me that your idea, though it's magnificent, is too idealistic. Not in a pessimist way, but that should assume that all people are perfect, because not everybody think of the best interests. I mean, through history, humanity has showed that whenever we face a problem, we go for our best interests. And that is obvious even right now. So do you think that is going to contribute in any way for a better future together?
Well, I always believe that every single human being has the equal innate ability to be both good and bad. And most times it's more of a spectrum, and we are somewhere in between, depending on our mood, our day, or the experiences that we've gone through. But making the daily decision to do good is something that can not only affect your life, but those around you, because it affects the experiences that can draw them towards good as well. And if enough of us can do that, then we can definitely outnumber the ones who are doing evil. So in that way, I feel that we can get closer to the future that we dream of. So it's not about, the elimination of all evil, and because that would be robots. Like, no, I don't want that. We're human, and we can definitely accept that, and we can be different, we can disagree, we can fight, but that doesn't mean that we have to, destroy everything around us when we're in that state.
Thank you for your presentation. I thought it was really inspiring. But I'm just wondering, do you think that the voices of young men in Morocco will be heard louder than the voices of the young women?
That's a very good question. I think that the culture in Morocco can give men an added advantage. But at the same time, it's more of them believing that their voices need to be heard, that they deserve to be heard. And if the girls in Morocco believe the same thing and just as strongly, then they'll fight for their voices equally as men do. It's simply that.
I think you're very inspirational, and I admire that you've had the opportunity to go away and you've come back. And I think as Round Square here, something that we want to go forward with is how do we encourage children or students like yourself who have the opportunity to go away and stay away, especially women, to come back and work and make a difference where they came from?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did not even grow up in Morocco, but the identity of being Moroccan has been instilled in me from a very young age. And I believe that even though kids can leave and learn and gain experience, which is an important part of being able to have the skill set to create impact, that it's important for them to come back to their own countries and really make a difference, because nobody's gonna care about your country more than you can. And it's always better to start with what's closest to you. So, your inner circle, your school, your city, your country. So if you go to another country and live there, and yeah, it's comfortable, because if you come back to where there's hardship, you're gonna struggle and you're gonna have to fight to really make a difference. But at the same time, that's what living is all about. I mean, if you go to another country and it's very comfortable and you have everything you can possibly need, you're working in a comfortable job, maybe you start a family, and that's just surviving. That's following a life script, It's like you go to school, to go to university, to get a job, to pay for stuff, and So that's a cycle that, you know, at the end of the day, you want to leave your mark. You want to be like, you know, I was here. And that can only happen in the place where you know the issues and you've lived it and you've experienced it, and you can connect to people there in order to really make a difference.
Can I ask you, how can Round Square encourage that to happen?
I think one of the things that you guys are doing, which is bringing youth together, is so important because experience creation is one of the biggest learning tools. And when you start, a lot of kids in Morocco can learn about certain issues, but if they don't live them, if they don't directly come in contact with them, it's hard for them to really overcome the obstacle and apply what they learn. So, for example, I work in an interfaith center, and one of the biggest problems is that you can talk about coexistence, you can talk about accepting the other, you can talk about you know, overcoming different differences in faith, but that's just theory. But when it comes to practice, when it comes to one disagreeing with the other on a core issue in their beliefs, what can really help is if they've experienced you know, being close to each other in other things. For example, they hang out together, and they have a sport together, and they know each other in other areas where they are similar. So I think that understanding that there are different issues around the world that are common, that there are others that care about it, and you can create a community that is international to share information, to address certain issues, to, you know, I think that can create immense progress, and that can educate youth to really care about those issues because they realize that it's not just within their own community, that if they can create a new solution in it, then it can change a lot of countries around the world because maybe their solution is innovative. Maybe they thought of something or a different perspective that somebody else didn't.
And now I call Mr. Yunus to give this talk of appreciation to Jihad. To Muslim.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great coming here.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. Now you can go out for a 30 minutes break, and then we will move to the closing ceremony. Thank you.